Hi, Todd VanDenburg here with VanDenburg Capital Management and another Uncommon Sense update. So October markets are closed, and it was a really good month depending on what you were invested in. I mean, it was a good month no matter what you were invested in, but it was a really good month if you were in the Dow. So I'll show you a quick chart. The Dow was up about 14%, S&P 500 about 7.5%, and the NASDAQ was up 3%. So what I want to talk about today in just a few words is why the disparity. And it's sort of funny because the reason that the Dow was up so much more than the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 is because the Dow lacks diversification. And let me explain why. So the Dow is what's called a price-weighted index. And what that means is that those stocks that have the highest share price contribute to the greatest percentage of the index performance. So in October, we had the top two stocks of the Dow were United Healthcare and Goldman Sachs, and those two stocks killed it. I mean, they just were straight up, did great. Really the top five stocks did super well, and as a result, those top five stocks pulled the entire index up. And a lot of people don't know this, but like the top five stocks of the Dow today make up 35% of the index's performance. So, 25 stocks, could have done top five stocks do great and the index does great. But conversely, if those top five stocks, and this actually happened, a few years back, you had Boeing was the number one stock in the Dow, highest share price. And then a couple of Boeing planes crashed, and the Dow just did horribly as an index simply because of one stock. So the moral of the story here is that the reason that the Dow did so well in October in comparison, I mean, the Dow up 14, NASDAQ up 7.5, the S&P up 7.5, the NASDAQ up 3, is because it lacked diversification. And as we preach to everybody, you want to be diversified. So I don't want anybody looking at their 401k or their investment accounts, wherever they happen to be, and thinking, gee, I didn't go up 14% like the Dow. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. If you were diversified, you didn't go up 14%. And that's a good thing, because when you lack diversification, that means if something bad happens to Goldman Sachs or United Healthcare and you were investing in those stocks in the Dow, you're going to get hammered way worse than the broader market. So diversification matters, and we use the Dow to just sort of generally show where indexes are going. But October was a great example of how one index can completely outperform all the rest. And it's not because it's better, it's just because that one happens to be price weighted, whereas another index might be market cap weighted. I mean, there's different weightings to these indexes. So again, don't be upset that you didn't get 14%, because again, the only way to get that was to lack diversification, and we don't recommend that for anybody who's trying to keep volatility down and still try to give themselves a chance of doing fairly well over the long haul. Now, to fast forward to the market today, the Federal Reserve came out and raised interest rates by another 0.75% today. And I'm going to show you just a quick graphic, two headlines about an hour apart from exactly the same place. So Federal Reserve announces the rate increase, but they also provided a statement that talked about how they are leaving themselves the wiggle room to sort of moderate their rate increase policy, because they understand that there's a lag between changing interest rates and actually having an impact on the economy. So, statement comes out, Chairman Powell's giving a press conference, and the headline across CNBC is Dow up 300 because of the Federal Reserve's interest rate policy. And I turned my head, come back about an hour later, and no new news. I want to make that point. Not a single new piece of data was introduced. CNBC's headline is Dow down 500 because of Federal Reserve's interest rate policy. Now, I mean, seriously, no new news, two headlines saying that the markets were both up and down because of the same thing. So if anybody wonders why, it's super hard to just look at these headlines and take investment advice from the talking heads on TV, this is a perfect example because they're literally just trying to get you clicks, right? So when the markets were up, it was speculators that were causing the markets to go up because they're like, hey, if the Federal Reserve isn't going to keep raising interest rates by 0.75%, maybe we'll see if we can get a little upside here. But on the same token, those same speculators later in the day, it looks like they said, well, maybe we'll see if there's some downside pressure that we can put on the markets here. And they did. Nothing new changed. So what I'm telling everybody today is the same thing I've been saying for a couple months now, is at least through the election, maybe through the end of the year, you really want to have like three buckets in your money. You want to have an emergency fund or cash, just set aside so that on the off chance that things go to heck in a handbasket, you've got the cash and aren't having to sell out of things, maybe when their prices are down, so that you don't have to change your lifestyle. So that's one bucket, cash. The second bucket is a well-diversified, portfolio of good quality market investments. And because we're not trying to time the market. If you have money in the markets, you're invested by definition for somewhat of a long haul. So, you want to have some of that too. And then there's a third bucket. You want something in there that adds a little stability, and that could be fixed income. You might want to go get some treasuries. You can get two-year treasuries around 4% today. Maybe you just want to use some of these things that we've found called buffered funds that try to protect your upside and downside, so that if things go completely sideways, that like down 20 or 30%, you're not going to experience that same volatility. But you really want to have those three kinds of buckets right now, because if the election doesn't go the way we expect it to, which is divided government, the markets could react negatively. And you just want to, at this point, I think, be a little cautious. Just take a wait and see approach until we get settled through the election. It's certainly what we're doing. And if anybody has any questions about how to apply it to your own investments, give me a call, shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer any questions. Just one more thing on savings. I have in the past talked about an online savings bank that FDIC insured was paying 2.25. I think the last time I mentioned it, it's up to 2.35 right now. Well, in the last few weeks, I found another FDIC insured online bank that's actually paying 3.5%. I don't know how long they're going to pay it, but if you've got some emergency cash that's just sitting on the sidelines, that is by definition your emergency fund, so you're never going to invest that money, you want it to be earning as much as it possibly can. So I'd highly recommend that you look at accounts like that. I can't really mention the name of the account without having to put a whole bunch of disclaimers and disclosures on this video update. So if you have any questions about who it might be, give me a call. I'm happy to share who it is. Again, it's FDIC insured, and they're paying 3.5%. So it might be worth taking a look at. So that was it. That was your update. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, again, shoot me a message. Happy to reply. But I'll be back again soon with another Uncommon Sense update. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to be the first to hear of more Uncommon Sense updates like these, please click the subscribe button below. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks again.